No, you're allowed to for me, and you have good volume.
Fine.
Yep.
Okay, we're live.
Hi, good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 26th, and we are here for a special work session. As always, we will start with the pledge. Jody, can you please take the lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to begin with a brief statement. Welcome back, everyone. It has been a very profoundly hectic 2+ months. As we learn, pandemics cause a great amount of uncertainty, tension, anger, stress, sadness, and sometimes misinformation. This is known as the chaos theory. Unfortunately, America was subject to this discord resulting from the coronavirus pandemic. As a result, we had to enter into a federal and state mandates requiring us to enter the response stage of emergency management. Essential services were never interrupted in Riverhead. In addition, our Eastern town supervisors worked cohesively and quite often acted in unison with each other. Know that your town board was very concerned and are now eager to move Riverhead forward. There is a tremendous amount of work to be done in front of us, and we need to work cohesively, together, and fast. Last week's scheduled meeting did not take place due to circumstances that were not under my control. However, we as a board have agreed to hold a special work session this week in order to move Riverhead forward. Construction, permitting, and business reopening are our primary focus at the moment. Moving forward, we are about to enter the recovery stage of disasters. This is a community-focused effort, and now more than ever, we need to move forward as quickly as possible, and your town board is behind you. We have a lot to discuss today: plans, recommendations, and discussions for reopening Riverhead. We are about to enter phase 1 of reopening Riverhead, hopefully tomorrow, if the stats indicate so. If not, hopefully within this week, no later than next week. That is mandated and designated by the governor. Know that each and every one of us is eager to enter phase 1 and begin reopening Riverhead to recover as much as possible. I have been working endlessly, attempting to file for aid, financial aid, and last week we received approval that Riverhead now will be included in the federal stimulus bill. If any of the members of the board would like to make a statement as far as
I just want to make one comment, not relating to what you said, but I want to say happy Memorial Day to everybody, and thank you for our active troops and for all of our veterans that work to keep our freedom every single day. Thank you very much.
Good point, Frank.
All right.
So, when you say that what the governor is saying is mandated, and, I mean, when I look up executive order, it says recommendations.
Mhm.
So, has that been discussed? Because we're a lot different here on Long Island, and I know that you've been working, trying to get the metrics for Riverhead held at a different standard than they are
we
in
did.
other places throughout the state. But
you know, I'm getting, this weekend was a crazy weekend because I got inundated with emails and phone calls from people from Wading River about the beaches, and they couldn't park in the lots because the lots were full with, non-residents, out-of-state plates, no parking stickers, not even from 2019, and the garbage on the beach, which, you know, we've removed a couple pails, we put up signs, carry in, carry off, but the residents took it upon themselves to write that in Spanish and put it on there, and I feel frustration because I feel like our residents, are really coming here and they're trying to enjoy the beach, and it's being inundated with out-of-towners. And I know other towns are saying that the beaches should be for residents only, and I think that's something that we should consider, especially now with spatial separation distances are recommended. And I think that we should consider that, because Brookhaven's done it, Southold hasn't even opened their beaches yet, and
We have done it.
Southampton,
Our
so,
beaches are open for residents only.
really,
And there's been
because-
enforcement, and that's how, that we've had, enforcement last weekend, with.
Okay, cause when I pulled up to the Wading River Beach, the officer that was there all day said, and he was a part-time officer and probably knew and maybe didn't get the orders, but he said, "Are you a resident?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Okay, have a nice day." And there was no driver's license check, there was no sticker check, there was no nothing, so just to make sure that there are proper orders, that our officers know what they're supposed to be doing, because when I got there, they had written 18 tickets at the Holst Landing Beach, and they had written 11 tickets at the Wading River Beach for cars that were, you know, non-residents and didn't have any stickers. So I think that it's something that we really have to focus on, as well as getting our businesses open, and that's why I asked the question about whether or not the executive order from the governor is a recommendation or a mandate, because you said in your opening that it was a mandate.
It is. We cannot, first of all, we have to also consider FEMA and Department of State. And the governor is under those mandates also. So if the health department says it's not appropriate to go into this phase right now based on the amount of positive cases, if the governor decides that he wants to go against that, and he hasn't done it, it's more of a protection to ensure that we are securing the people according to FEMA, Department of Health, and looking at the amount of cases.
So there was a conference call last Tuesday with the Restaurant and Tavern Association of Suffolk County and the county executive, where they were recommending that the county executive actually go and talk to the governor possibly about restaurants opening for outdoor seating here on Long Island, specifically in Suffolk County, where the cases seem to be less than Nassau County. And you're saying that that has been approved?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We
'Cause I have a couple
we're
plans.
gonna discuss it today,
Okay,
the component. However, we have to be able to open on, at the appropriate stage. And that's our, the next discussion.
so we can't move like restaurant outdoor seating into phase one, and because the 2-week mandate of waiting time between phases is gonna kill people.
It
I
is
mean,
a
that's
long time.
gotta be, that's gotta be shortened.
In total
because-
agreement, and there's been a push for that, and we're still waiting for guidance on that. What we're doing today is, we actually have done the entire weekend, is working on, when we reach that phase, and we're given the approval, so we are prepared. And we'll discuss some of this in
Okay, cause
the
I didn't
next
see it
topic.
elsewhere on the agenda, I just saw it in the first item, guidelines for reopening business recommendations,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
We're gonna,
Before we move off the topic, Jody mentioned the beaches. Another issue with the beaches is, yes, we do have people there during regular business hours on, 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are. It's after the hours it's becoming a problem, because Reeves Beach in particular has had people going down and camping on the beach and they've set up for the whole weekend down there.
Right.
There's no sanitary, the restrooms aren't open, so that's a huge problem in itself.
Sure.
Garbage is all over the place, and they're out-of-towners, they're out-of-state plates. They're, somebody had said that the license plate brackets were like saying Queens, New York, whatever, so.
Yes, I
They were
saw it.
assuming they were not Riverhead residents, there were no stickers on the car, for sure. So it's an issue that we need to address or have the police department address after the hours.
Absolutely, and when you observe that, you don't have to wait for a work session to discuss it.
Right.
You can bring it right, to the police commissioner.
Mhm.
He has, there was a problem last week with, Reeves Beach, and we immediately addressed it. We have, New York City beaches are closed, and we're getting a huge influx.
Right.
And we have to be mindful of that.
Mhm.
And if, at Reeves Beach, we have been making periodic reports, and I have gotten, a few letters saying, thank you, we're taking care of the
Yeah.
problem. And, yeah, we'll move forward, it's something that we've
This
never
weekend was a problem. It was
experienced.
a holiday weekend, so generally it is a little
Absolutely.
more busier than it
Well, I
would be,
think a
but
lot more, Tim.
that's part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
yes.
was texting you and the chief all afternoon, Sunday afternoon,
Good.
saying, we need the
Mhm.
ATVs down here, because there were trucks one after the other coming
Mhm.
in onto the beach,
Yep.
and they didn't have stickers, and they had the kayaks, the canoes in the back, they had the blow-up boats, and as we know, the launch spot in, Wading River for the fire department and police rescue
Mhm.
is not where it needs to be in order to do rescues out there. And when you have all these bonfires and parties on the beach all night, I mean, we really need to have a beach attendant before they get to the parking lot saying, are you a resident? And if not, turning them around right there, in my opinion. And then we need an ATV on the beach at night.
Well, we'll make that recommendation as a board to the, police chief and make sure that it goes forward.
And I agree with all the points that have been brought up, and, let's face it, this is a problem in all of Nassau, Suffolk. We're not the only ones that have these concerns. I mean, it seems pretty outrageous to me that people are setting up camping at night. And I mean, as far as limiting who comes to the beach, if we're going to have people distanced apart, I mean, we want to allow that space really for our residents. So, I'm in agreement with everything that you said, everybody said.
Just for clarity, we were talking that in June, we're gonna open the beaches with lifeguards.
Yes,
Will
We expect-
concessions and restrooms be opened at that same time?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, if we look at some of the video from this past weekend, in some of the other states where things opened up and people, threw caution to the wind and were all up close to each other, I mean, that's a clear indication for us that, we do need to monitor the activity on the beaches carefully just to keep everybody safe.
And your beach stickers can be purchased
Yes.
at the Stotsky Park Rec Center,
It's online,
online also.
everything's online, yes.
And they're open selling them from, I think, 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, every day, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
Right, but when you get your beach permit online, you have to bring all the follow-up documentation with you to the beach, because they can't, when you get it at the, recreation office, they put the sticker on your car. But when you get it online, they don't know that that sticker belongs to that car, so you have to bring the registration and all the follow-up that goes with that permit that you print out from your home printer, until you can get a sticker.
Yeah, actually, Jody, I think there's a way to upload it. I think there's something there that you can upload your information.
Yeah, but
That
they
looks
don't.
complicated to me.
I heard from two people that when they went to the beach, they had the printout of the permit, but they didn't have the registration and the utility bill and all the other stuff to back up, and they weren't allowed to go park in the lot. So, you just, when you're printing it out from home, if the recreation department is not putting it on your car, bring your printed registration and all the paperwork that they ask you for online with you, so that the beach attendant can verify that all that paperwork goes with that permit.
Are we allowing for grace period using your 2019?
Yes.
Yes.
Still are, yes.
Yeah.
Till the end of June?
June
Yes.
20th, June 20th.
June 20th, okay, thank you.
And then the 4x4 stickers, are those going to be issued eventually for,
That, Ray is working on that.
okay,
There are some issues that people are bringing, 4x4s under, in the evening, people have gotten stuck, and, that's something that, is being discussed. And we'll
Okay.
put it up online. Okay, so moving forward. Where's, I don't know if you can see the PowerPoint. Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
so this is,
Okay, so
That's
these
our
are the
agenda.
items for discussion. This is on the Riverhead website. It's updated daily under COVID updates. We are in day 75 of the emergency. We had 13 positive cases as of yesterday.
Oh, that's gone up.
13 new cases.
13 new cases, positive cases. And Riverhead stands at 419. If you need a mask, you can call 311 and they will mail it to you. Be mindful, we have the Riverhead Safe program, which will supply essentials to seniors, veterans, and people who are medically disabled and can't go out of their homes. For food assistance, you have Island Harvest. They'll provide Lyft vouchers to residents. It's a 24-hour service. We have partnered up with the state in case there's a high demand of food. We agreed to deliver the foods as needed. They'll deliver it to us, and then we deliver it. Okay, but however, everything should go through our Island Harvest. Call 311. If you have, if you want any other information, the operators will direct you accordingly. We have Long Island Cares has a mobile outreach program, and you can find them on the, they're available 9 to 5. You have the website there. Again, we have the Riverhead Safe program. It's currently it's distributing 280 meals per day, Monday through Friday, to seniors. And you also have the Meal on Wheels program, where they'll deliver hot meals to you. This is what everyone's following, and the governor's following, the towns need to follow, is the matrix. What it takes for us to open. Unfortunately, we only completed 5 out of 7 benchmarks. I know that the county was out this weekend signing up tracers. That's one of the areas that we need to concentrate on. That's one of the benchmarks that we failed at, concerns tracers, the amount of tracers, and the second benchmark that we haven't met has to do with deaths. There was a fierce effort to change the matrix. We were being Long Island, the Long Island region was lumped in with towns that consisted of 400,000 people, and we had to address the difference and the disparity. If you have a town with 400,000 people, obviously they're gonna have a lot, less deaths, and then you lump Nassau and Long Island, and now we have 1.8 million people, and they're comparing us to the same deaths. Obviously the people who have Long Island region gonna have a lot more higher death rate, and there was a fierce struggle back and forth, and we sent letters up the food chain, and as of, I believe it was Saturday, they changed the metrics and for Long Island, and it looks like we're gonna be able to move. This is a very, very important website. It's called New York Forward. You don't have the URL, just type it in your computer. It is the guidelines. This is what we have to follow to build back Riverhead. There's a tremendous amount of information. It is updated daily. I have put forth this website constantly, and it's very, very important that businesses follow the protocol. I got word today that before business opens this morning, they have to, businesses before they reopen, they have to prepare a business affirmation form, okay? All these guidelines are in that website. On April 24th, the Small Business Association received further funding. The first small business loans were utilized, and funds were extinguished. And on April 24th, the fund was enhanced, and there is quite a bit of money in there. It applies to businesses that have 2 to 20 employees. I would highly recommend that small businesses who are struggling commence on that process, completing the application. I'm told that now they've gotten a lot of the kinks out and that funding is usually available within 3 weeks. The past and moving forward. On March 12th, we declared an emergency declaration. Emergency declarations required by FEMA that you designate a response team. Our town attorney was a member of the response team. Our outside counsel labor attorney was as part of the, was consulted. The CSA was consulted, the CSA rep, and the supervisor was also part of the team. These are required. You have to have the head of the agency, your FEMA designated chief, who's also part of the team, and you must have an attorney. We follow the proper protocols. We spoke to other towns, and we created a document we created the emergency order. And the order followed every protocol required by federal, state, FEMA, and legal counsel. It was presented to the town board through phone calls, and we moved forward with it, and we declared the emergency designation. Know that our goal was to maintain all essential services, and again, they were never ever interrupted. As we entered the disaster response phase, we needed to secure the entire town, again, under federal, state, Department of Health and CDC guidelines. We worked on community support, coordination, equipment, many daily conferences at every level, sometimes 7 days a week. The past and moving forward. We constantly consulted with department heads, sometimes 2 and 3 days, times a day, if there was an issue or a problem. Each town board member, towards the end of each week, was called by the team to ascertain if there were any concerns and issues. We created the Riverhead Safe program, again, essentials delivered by town employees. On the town's website and Channel 22, COVID information was placed. Available services, CAP videos for the youth, and public service announcements were included. We created an outreach program for the Spanish community. I am on the radio each week on WLNG, WRIB, WPPD, and even on La Fiesta in Spanish.
What days and times are you on? If you could post that on the website, because then people can listen into your updates, that would be great.
Sure. We sent out public service announcements, including reverse 911 robocalls. We addressed media requests. We coordinated a food drive funding from the Sucker Family Foundation. We partnered with the state for the food crisis program. However, if you are interested, you must be, you have to register through 311. They're the ones that will be providing the food, and if there's an excess amount of deliveries and they can't complete them, we have partnered, and town employees will be making those deliveries. We coordinated a virtual discovery conference with the Army Corps of Engineers to address flooding on the Peconic River. It was very, very successful, and they asked us to move to the next step, and they will be working with us to request federal funding. We sent personalized cards to each Arcadia resident and all police department personnel. We had a telephone community outreach to businesses where we constantly called businesses to see how they were doing and if we can assist them. We virtually met with Epcot Watch Coalition, and on a separate forum, we met with the civic groups. We constantly address crisis intervention on a daily basis. People were scared, people didn't know what to do, people were destitute at one point thought that they were destitute, and in those cases, we had partnered up with some churches for them to respond and assist the individuals if they can. We created and coordinated an effort to return employees with federal and state mandates in place. We installed a second server at a location to protect our critical infrastructure. At one point, we only had one server at one location, and if something happened, whether it was natural or man-made, we would not have any communications, and it is absolutely critical during a disaster. The future, May 23rd, 2020, we are about to enter the recovery stage. We need now community engagement, and hopefully by Wednesday, we will enter into that stage. We prepared town hall for reopening on a limited basis. All full-time employees will be returning today and welcome. All offices have been sanitized by the B&G department, along with a professional service, Cintas, and we will continue to do so as needed. PPE equipment has been issued, and they will be replaced as needed. Let me just get to that slide. Where are we? What is that one? Where's May 23rd? There we go. Signage has been posted and protection shields have been built throughout Town Hall and will be modified or installed as needed. All federal and state COVID-19 mandates are in place. There are videos, forms, CDC and Department of Health directives. They were all provided to all department heads for dissemination. As Riverhead enters phase 1 to reopen, we need to address our local issues and we need everyone's cooperation. Should we enter phase 1 tomorrow, which we are hoping, the following businesses will be able to operate under a limited basis, and again, we need to go to New York forward. Each phase is described, and all the protocols that must be followed are listed. Phase 1 consists of construction, agriculture, forestry, fishing and hunting, retail on a limited basis, in-store pickup or drop-off or curbside, manufacturing and wholesale trade. All these phases are listed in New York 1, and they are also listed on our website. One of our biggest concerns are the struggling businesses and restaurants in Riverhead. This concern is across the entire county. Today, I am going to propose to the board off-premise dining, and I know there has been some talk about it, and I know Jody, about a month ago, had mentioned how do we provide, what can we do, and collectively, this process that I am going to present today is the same protocols as all East End towns are pursuing. And hopefully we can all agree. Of course, we need to make it Riverhead specific. These are recommendations. We need to create legislation to adopt temporary outdoor dining to assist our struggling businesses. Temporary outdoor restaurant dining is intended to follow to allow restaurants to provide outside dining while maintaining all the social distancing protocols as mandated by the Center of Disease Control and the Department of Health. We
Sorry to interrupt, where did you say these recommendations came from? These are from within?
The Suffolk County are adopting these recommendations, however, they're not a cookie cutter. We should make them Riverhead specific.
Right, okay, thank you, just
Okay,
checking.
sure. Only registered places of public assembly with a valid use permit and up-to-date public assembly license will be considered for temporary outdoor restaurant use. Applications for temporary outdoor restaurant dining permit will be available on the town's website, the bid, and the Chamber of Commerce. In addition, applications may be submitted to the Riverhead Building Department drop box located at 201 Howell Avenue. We asked what is required from an application. We need to prepare the application. Businesses need to propose outdoor tables and locations of chairs and the total of, capacity needs to be clearly indicated on the, application, and all federal and state distancing protocols must be in place. You need to protect from vehicular traffic for occupant safety. Tables and chairs must be removed by 10 p.m. Proposals should consist of not more than 50% of the establishment's approved interior occupancy. So for example, if you have a business and there are, your occupancy rate is 50%, you can, and when you move into the phase where the restaurants can open, it'll be 50% of your capacity. We are now hoping to extend and make it 100% by, allowing 50% of that occupancy to be outdoors.
Can I ask a quick question about that? So most of the restaurants would have an occupancy for their interior. So the exterior setup would be bound to the 50% of their interior
No.
then?
It's 100% of your interior will be
Okay.
completed. So when you open up, it looks like it's gonna be 50%, that's
Right.
permitted. So you have 100 people, so you can only sit 50 people in interior.
Interior, okay.
Hopefully, if this is adopted by the town board, that you can apply for 50% outside,
Okay, gotcha.
exterior.
Good.
So you're actually meeting the 100%.
Yep.
Right, so the 50% for the outside, has that application been generated yet? And is it online so that people can start
I
filing their
am
applications?
presenting it to the board and for your approval.
Okay,
Okay.
and then is there a fee with that, or are we waiving the
It's up
fee?
to the board, most people are waiving the fee.
And then.
As we should.
And then the
Yes.
fire marshal inspections, I mean, we have 2 fire marshals, so how are they going to be able to do all these inspections in a timely fashion?
Oh, the applications are being, reviewed virtually and approved virtually, and the last step will just be a quick visit by the fire marshals. I've been on the phone with our planner, and we have, he assured me he's worked it diligently on, creating the application, and, it's, just a matter of having the application approved virtually, the fire marshal goes, make sure that everything is in place, and you will receive the approval.
So the
So it's like an
planning,
It's a-
expedited
Yes, it's a
approval
fast
system.
track.
Okay.
so the planners are reviewing the application, showing the outdoor seating with the proper spatial distances, and
That's
then
correct.
the fire marshal will go out with that plan
Yes.
once the permit is issued and inspect. So those permits will be issued online also, so they'll get an email back with the permit, and then
Absolutely.
they'll.
And most counties who are considering, towns who are considering following these protocols, guidance, are, turning the applicants fast-tracked within 3 days.
Well, as we move forward, we'll have to see how it goes, but we may wanna consider hiring a temporary person, just like when we hired the person to do the signs for so many months. We'll have to talk with the fire marshals and planning. As we move forward, if we're not able to keep up with all and monitor, we may wanna consider something.
Yeah, because I imagine with construction opening up tomorrow, the fire marshal's gonna be busy and so are the building inspectors. So, I mean, people have been chomping at the bit to get
Right.
back to construction and they haven't been able to, and now it's opening up again tomorrow, so, and I know that plans are sitting on your desks waiting for review also for new construction, which we need that building permit number and we need those projects to start happening, so I know you're gonna be inundated. And, I think that's an excellent suggestion, Catherine, to have.
Yeah, well, and if you're thinking of all these restaurants suddenly submitting plans and moving forward, we don't wanna hold things up, but we wanna do it in the right way, so I think that's something we need to talk about.
Right, and is there an actual, sketch guideline for these submissions? Do you have the application for us to approve today?
We have Brookhaven's,
Template?
they haven't put it into effect, they
Okay.
shared it with us.
Oh, good.
Because we're trying to stay ahead of the game.
Mhm.
So when we get that the green light to go,
Yeah.
we need to have everything in place. And our planner has received, that document, and they, made it Riverhead specific, and today they're gonna be speaking in a minute. I'm almost done, am I done here, and then we'll go, forward. Actually, one more point before they can, come forward. No more than 20% of the required on-site off-street parking shall be proposed for temporary outside dining. A fire marshal inspection is required prior to opening temporary outside seating. And this morning, I received, an email stating that all businesses, before they open, they need a business affirmation, and I'll pass that to our planner, and again, it's available on the website.
And we're gonna have this discussion again later, cause it's on our agenda, right?
Yes.
I've got some things I wanna weigh in when we have the discussion, but I can wait.
Approved temporary outdoor seating plan must be displayed in the window. Applications will be accepted virtually and will be fast-tracked. Temporary outside seating license is not valid until the governor designates restaurants to open. We are working to try to change that for just outside sitting, and that's something that, we should all move that forward. I believe that, if we all agree to make this push, I understand other, town supervisors are also pursuing that. Any concerns or questions should be directed to the planning department, 631-727-3200, extension 209, or you can email zitek@townofriverhead.gov. And, Jeff, I'll have you come up in a minute, I just wanna finish this. Here's something that the bid had put together. This might be an example, again, it has to all be worked out, but if you can see the chairs outside or walkway, some towns are going to close their main street, have the chairs out there, it's something that we need to consider.
That's something I wanna talk about.
How you utilize the space. The Riverhead Chamber and the bid are scheduled to reopen at 50% capacity in phase 3 for temporary outdoor dining. However, we are gonna push to, attempt to adopt outside sitting, for businesses as soon as possible. This strategy is a defined model which practices social distance protocols according to the CDC and the Department of Health mandates. Businesses may utilize sidewalk space, parking areas, 20%, right? Riverhead, the riverfront, grass lots. Sufficient temporary lighting must be supplied. Sidewalks being utilized will have to have steel barriers to allow for pedestrian traffic safety. The tables should be staged 7 feet apart with a minimum of 4 people. However, if it is a family, no more than 6. And this is where Jody has agreed to take the lead on. You can have tents in parking lots and include lighting for inclement weather, limit sun exposure. Towns are exploring outside locations for performances. 4 ideal places, and I know there are others. Actually, there's a 5th here. We can utilize whatever space we have, and the building department and the board will work together determining what's appropriate. However, the Suffolk Theater, behind the Suffolk Theater, you can obviously have a concert, practicing the distance protocols, parking, there's plenty of parking back there. The Peconic Riverfront is an excellent location to have a drive-in movie. The Long Island Sports Park is also another great location to utilize some type of outside seating or and food distribution. We could possibly utilize the East End Arts and the train station. This might be a little difficult to see because of the, there's an aerial shot. I'll try to identify. You can have outdoor eating. If you can see the chairs over here, under on this location, and we can obviously just move things around and utilize them as we need.
How would the train station work? Are you talking about the parking lot? Cause that's
Yes.
not really a large area.
Good question.
That
That's
big
the next slide.
Okay. And I'm just gonna add in one other area that is actually fabulous for concerts, and that if we worked it out with the school district, the front of Pulaski Street School, where they have Monday night band concerts.
Perfect.
That's a great place that people love to come sit on the grass with their beach chairs. I would add that.
Okay. So as you can see here, that in between, you have two parking spaces. They usually total, I believe it's about 10 feet. You park your car, and then you'll have a parking space. You can have your lawn chair, your food, people can sit out, and then you begin with the next car. So there is definitely space, and I thank the Chamber of Commerce for providing these photos to us. On a larger note, one of our biggest establishments here is the Long Island Aquarium. They have put a reopening plan in place. As the protocols have been developed, I can see that they've been adding it. This was provided last week. It is not their final copy, and obviously they'll have to include this mandate that came up. They are concerned. They have a big operation. However, I have seen many reopening plans. Some plans have been shared or I found online, and I thought that their plan was one of the most comprehensive plans incorporating all the safety protocols that are mandated. And I was actually very impressed. It's too big to put on slides. I just want to give you a very small overview of what they have put in place. They have a plan for one-way flow throughout the entire aquarium. They are meeting the federal state mandates with protecting employees and the public. They have a vendors and a distribution plan, and actually this is probably only 3 points of their 10-point plan that they have. Very comprehensive. I just want to give businesses and the public an idea of, the aquarium's efforts. Very professionally developed. They have a one-way flow plan throughout the aquarium, again, practicing all the, safety protocols. Here's an example of their, of federal mandates, federal and state mandates for protecting the employees. This is again the aquarium protocol that they're following, and it's very, very extensive. They have a vendors and a distribution plan in place. And I have, wait, what happened to Jeff?
You just stepped in the hallway.
Okay.
No, he's here.
So,
there you go.
okay. Believe me,
I saw you go out.
I would like to have, Bob Kern step up, speak a couple of moments on, what the chamber is doing.
Maybe
Probably
the
over
mic
to the
over
podium,
here
Bob.
would be good. Hey, Bob.
Sure. Can I make a couple of comments? One on the SBA loan. The reason why a lot of small businesses are giving them back is because of the forgiveness parameters. They're trying to get those expanded, just to let everybody know. And I want to, Yvette, I want to thank the supervisor because we're working with groups all over the island, and I completely understand the walls that you've hit in the last 3.5 weeks. It was a great thing that you guys did in terms of getting the matrix right with the per capita matrix. Since we have the state that's saying facts and data, getting that right is crucial.
Actually, we put that up forward on, I believe it was Thursday, and we got a response on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're pushing through so many groups, and we know what you guys are doing, and we hit the same walls, so it's really important everybody keeps pushing. Because if you make better sense, it's like the aquariums thing, and it's being ignored, which a lot of businesses have put up protocols that are far better than the state, and there's no response from the state. Something else I just want to mention, if everybody could push for this, we've also are talking to our federal leaders about the $3 trillion bill. That's the third prong of funding. We're trying to get it to go from the towns to the county to the states. Right now, because money is going to come to the state, but we don't want it to go from the state to the county to the towns. It's really crucial for anybody who really understands this because they'll shave off a lot of money and we'll end up with very little. So we're pushing from that, all over the island in all kinds of groups. One thing that we're really concerned about, and the WHO just announced this again today, is crowding. The less we have open, the more concentrated people are going to be. Okay, so if you put 100 horses out on 1 acre, they're all together. If you put 100 horses out on 100 acres, everybody has plenty of room. So the more we can open up, the better we can do. And I look at the drive-in performances, and you name some of the locations. The more we can do all over the town, the better. Because most of them will be done in the afternoon, because you really don't want to get into nighttime lighting. Even the train station is, I think it's 240 spaces, or 280. Only 140 spaces would be occupied, to give you an idea. So it's not a lot of people. It looks big, but it's really not. We hope to help with planning and the fire marshal to expedite for the restaurants, because I can tell you, a lot of them, if they're here in December, I'll be surprised. They'll be surprised. at this juncture. Let me just see. We're also doing a big push, is to separate Nassau from Suffolk, and also get the state to realize the microeconomic environment that the East End has all on its own. Because we could get screwed here with crowding if we're not really smart about this, and who's ever advising the governor, I don't think really understands this region and how many people are coming out here and then where they're gonna go. Let's see. So that's about it, and again, Yvette, I know, you know, we've been working a lot night, whatever, and I know your frustration, and I know you guys have been hearing from everybody, so we're just here to help. Any way we can, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
The whole process that will take place to reopen will be, again, and I keep on repeating myself, all safety protocols will be in place, we're moving forward. The board is tasked with helping, moving the town forward. It's gonna be a lot of work to do, but we wanna get off running as soon as we get the designation to open certain businesses that we're ready. Jeff, did you want to come up and speak about the application process? Well, you can go to Mike if you want.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've been seeing you all again. It's the first time I've worn this in a very long time. I also have Craig Zidek with me today, Chief Fire Marshal in the audience, and I'm sure he'll have a few comments also. We're trying to help out the restaurants in any way we can because they've really been hurt throughout this whole process. As been mentioned, we're hoping to begin phase 1 of reopening businesses this week. And as Jody pointed out, and I read this myself, that even once we begin phase 1, once it's been deemed successful, there's a minimum 2-week period after that to which we begin to look at the following phase. And restaurants are not allowed to open until phase 3 per the governor's order. So we're looking at least another month at the minimum for restaurants to be able to reopen in their normal capacity. So whatever we can do to help them now, we're going to put our best efforts forward. So with that in mind, for the direction of the supervisor, Craig Zidek and myself have been working to put together an application for outdoor dining for our existing local restaurants.
And then this is for temporary.
This is temporary, yep. And I'm gonna give out copies now to you. Thank you.
So that's the application and the affirmation form, and,
The affirmation just came in like an hour ago. I have to talk to him about it.
okay.
Yeah. But they have to follow all the guidelines on the website, not only what we do. This is just for,
On the New York Forward website,
yes,
or on?
and the
okay.
New York Forward website. This is for our,
Thank you, teacher.
application process.
I'm a teacher. Thank you.
So, even
Very
with,
impressive. A lot of work this weekend, huh?
yes, we did.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Whatever, like I said, whatever we can do to help out the local restaurants. As pointed out, as during the supervisor's comments, this doesn't give restaurants a carte blanche to just simply reopening and have it on the outside. Safe distance protocols will remain in effect per the governor's order. 6 foot for patrons. No shoulder-to-shoulder congregation of overcrowding. We saw some of that over the weekend in other towns. The town will be closely monitoring these efforts. When we issue a permit for such an outdoor dining area, we will give a copy of that approval to the police department so that at nighttime they can take a look, make sure that the safety protocols are being enforced by the local restaurant.
Jeff, if I may interrupt, and we're gonna follow suit what, is being recommended. We are gonna issue signs after you do your inspection
Yeah,
and
we'll
ensure
issue
that
permits,
all the
yep.
protocols are in place.
Yep.
And they can display these signs prominent, they must be displayed prominently, stating that this, location has been inspected and at the it is meeting the protocols.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that a little later, but that's a great point, because a lot of what we're gonna have to deal with as business owners in this town is confidence to come back into
Exactly.
the marketplace. So to have signage saying, hey, this meets all the COVID standards and all of the spatial needs, that's gonna be key for the business owners to have people that are confident to come back into their establishment.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know what would be helpful too, as they do with the elevator permits, where it has a line underneath that whoever's there inspecting can put the date and the signature as to the date they were there inspected, so that the public knows that it's being inspected on a regular basis.
Great, jotting all this
And we
down.
might even wanna talk about enforcement. I mean, normally in the downtown area, we have 2 officers, I think, walking around. You know, I mean, we wanna get it right, and we may wanna just have more enforcement checking and watching.
Well, you touched on a great point. You mentioned it briefly earlier about enforcement, about having part-time help. Before this hit, we actually had a part-time fire, what was his title, Craig?
He was our intern. We were hoping to make him a part-time fire inspector.
So, if you approve that, we'd like to get him back again, because this is additional layer of work on the fire marshal's office. Mike did a great job, and I know that we're in a little bit of budget crunch right now, but I think trying to help out the local businesses, given the fact that we're down to 2 fire marshals, we lost Laura Tague, we lost Andrew Smith, so bringing Mike back on a part-time basis would really help us out, so.
Is the board in approval to
Yeah.
go
Absolutely.
forward? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, terrific, we really appreciate it,
I mean,
thank you very much.
Keeping in mind all the money that the town has spent in investment and revitalization and keeping businesses alive, it's a small price to pay in order to get them going again, so that we don't lose all of what we've gained over the last 10 years.
And some of these businesses can open up pretty quickly, like Farm Country Kitchen, they were approved with outdoor picnic tables. They can open up, once they get an application to us, we can review that very quickly. So some of these restaurants already have that business model in place, so that would really help out a lot. With your approval and taking a look at this, I'm gonna go over the application with you in just a moment, but once you approve this today, we will post it online on the website. I just gave Bob Kern a copy of it. There are some questions that we need to have you answer, and I'm gonna ask them to you as we go through the application. Just very briefly, I tried to make it as brief as possible, as simple as possible. There's no fee required for this. Couple of questions. On page 2, we attempted to put an outdoor seating plan as an example, just to give the owners an idea of what we're expecting to see. Again, no shoulder to shoulder, no congregation, like we've seen in other towns. They get a pass on not being penalized for lack of parking for it. They will have to comply with all the fire code requirements for exiting and entering the premises. Page 2, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet down. I have it in bold. Hours of operation, and then when it should expire. We mentioned 10 p.m. at night. Is that an acceptable end date at nighttime? Good with that?
I don't know.
For the
I don't-
tables and chairs.
I'm trying to understand why we're asking them to pull in the tables and chairs, because a lot of these companies are gonna be renting tables and chairs, and I think if they're anchored down properly, or
Yeah,
if
that's-
there is a rack that they can put the chairs on so that they can cover them and take them out the next day, I think it's a real burden on the business owners, especially because they're gonna be busy at 10 o'clock at night to take them in and then get them out again the next morning, so.
Some may not be able to bring them in. We're worried about inclement weather, theft. If they secure them, that's up to, that you can modify that.
So it's not gonna be mandated that they have to take them in at night?
No.
But I think what we're looking at is that they can only be used up till 10 o'clock at night.
Mhm. There's a time frame when to use them.
Well, I guess we can start with that, and then if it's not working for them and they wanna stay open
Well,
later,
like we
then
said
they'll.
before, this is only a temporary fix until we can get into the 3rd phase. So
Yeah,
that's- I
and
think
I-
that's a great start anyway.
And
Yeah.
hopefully the restaurants will be entering phase 3 sooner than the expiration of.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
this has to take place in phase 3.
This is phase 3.
Oh, this is
more
phase
phase
three.
3.
Oh.
We are advocating to attempt to go
Right.
into this outdoor temporary, because if we noticed that our argument, and we're gonna try to, put this up forward today, our argument is, if you allow curbside sitting, why can't you have where tables where people can sit outside?
You know, I'm.
And we'll
That's
work
great.
on that and see what comes down, but it is a recommendation, there is a push, and I understand Nassau is doing it. Bob, would you agree Nassau is doing curbside, outside, did it? Tiny?
Actually, Western Suffolk is already doing their parking lots in
Okay.
different towns, and there's no, but everybody's just kind of turning a blind eye. If
Yeah.
I may, I mean, I think 10 o'clock is a little bit early, because people thinking about the restaurant.
Bob, I think people would wanna hear what you're saying, so
Yes.
maybe you can back up to the mic, because
Sorry.
Yeah, now knowing that this is part of phase 3, I would agree with what Bob's gonna say.
Yeah, and just, Jeff, if I could talk 1 minute while Bob's coming up. I mean, I'm excited about all this. Frankly, I like a lot of these ideas, even if we hadn't gone through this. I think these are good things for Riverhead, and I'm gonna talk about that later. But, and it is phase 3, but we're hoping to move it up sooner. I'm just, because you're bringing up points and Bob's bringing up points, I know we wanna move it forward, and I do too, but we do have another work session on Thursday. I'm just wondering if we can have a day to look it over and think about other changes we wanna make and make sure we tweak it and get it right, and then make a decision on it Thursday, which is only, close.
It's up to you and the board. That's why we're presenting you
I
today
just
for your review. and
always
approval.
like to mull things over and read it and make sure we get it right, and I think some of you guys might think of things later, like, oh, why didn't we put that in, or why don't we add that? Bob might too. So, I'm just asking if we could just
It's up to you and the board.
talk about it today, have a day to think about it, and then, put it forward on Thursday.
I think that's an excellent idea, because, I mean, phase 3 is, it's 2 weeks in between phases. So, if we can get it, if we are opening phase 1 tomorrow, and then it's 2 weeks before we can go to phase 2, which is the retail, and then phase 3 would be another 2 weeks, so we're talking about 30 days. If we could get it moved up to 2 days, that would be great, but I think Thursday's plenty of time, because we wanna be clear on the diagram that we're giving to the business owners, that this is exactly what we're looking for, and we're not gonna ask for anything else, otherwise they're gonna get frustrated when they submit this. And we should show, like, how far off the property line or away from a building. Yeah, I see you have the dimensions on the side, like 12.2 feet, 13 feet, 15 feet, but, off the property line, distance between tables and things of that nature would be, if that's what you're gonna look for. But we'll look at this and then come back with recommendations on Thursday, I guess.
That's great, we'll put it on, and, everybody mill over it, and, again, these are recommendations, and, we need to make it Riverhead specific.
And,
we
and
will.
we may even wanna have some of our other town employees weigh in. I mean, I just wanna make sure that we get it right.
Okay.
What I would suggest, I mean, because, Thursday is easy but for the people that have been out of business for 75 days, every day is a lost day. So my suggestion on this is just be flexible, because one size isn't gonna fit all. I'll give you an example. You have Main Street, okay? That's one thing. Let's take the Cooperage, and let's say they do 20% coverage in their parking lot with a tent. Their tables don't have to come in, right? So, and we've looked at different areas to try to figure out, there's not a one-size-fits-all in terms of timing. I say if we're flexible, let's be flexible. If I have a restaurant on Main Street, I know I'm gonna make my money between 7 and midnight. If I have to close at 9:30, I'm losing a lot of money. And where it's lighted, and I think Jeff brought that up, any place where there isn't lights, you need to light. So I think we just need to be flexible. I don't know that we're gonna say we're gonna make this circle and everybody's gonna fit in.
No, I think we're in agreement with you on that, and by the way, Bob, all of us up here really wanna do
Oh, I
whatever
know.
we can.
I know you do.
I mean, I know a lot of people are frustrated, cause you can go into these big box stores, and yet here are our businesses, and to your point that it's better to take people and spread them all around, I agree with all that. I mean, even I went into Lowe's to pick up something the other day, it was so crowded, it really made you nervous. So,
Yeah.
yes, I agree,
And-
but
and-
I don't think 2 days, I think it'll give us a chance to make sure we got it right. 2 days won't make a big
Well,
difference.
flexibility, I think you can get it right, being flexible. The other thing is some places already have outdoor seating where others don't. So even if they can put 4 tables outside today, it, is great for them, or tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? If they have some space on their own property, that's all I'm saying. I just know, from a financial perspective, I've spoken to a lot of people and where they're at financially, and I understand 2 days, but thank you, if you can be flexible, thank you.
And all these ideas can be shared with the planner for adjustment. And then hopefully by Tuesday, we have a plan in place.
Yeah, so I think what the supervisor's saying though is it's a minimum of 2 weeks from tomorrow before these restaurants can open. A minimum. A maximum of 30 days if the supervisors and mayors are successful in getting these businesses from phase 3 into phase 2. So, I mean, I've passed out I've asked a few restaurants in town to give me a sketch plan layout as to how they would do the tables outside. You have one I gave to all of you for Phil's Place in Wading River. Delaquila Salon gave me one. The aquarium was working on it. I see that they submitted it. And we also have, Suffolk Theater is gonna work on something for in the back. So I think that everybody's very anxious and they're taking the time. And if you are successful in moving the outdoor dining for restaurants from phase 3 to phase 2, the supervisors and mayors will be a hero, and it'll go a long way towards getting these businesses open and keeping them alive,
But we
rather
still
than
want to
sinking.
explore the temporary fix. That's what you
Right.
were saying.
Yeah, this is.
Phase 3.
Yeah, we're working on the phasing.
Mhm.
This is just a proposal that I presented today for the temporary outside dining. And this is a similar model to what everyone else is using. And again, like Catherine said, we need to make it Riverhead specific. So at any time within these next 2 days, you can call the planner, the fire marshals, you have concern. We need, regardless of what is produced on Thursday, the CDC mandates must be in place. We cannot be flexible on them, and I can see from your application that they are in place. And we're gonna also have further restrictions. As things may happen, they may say, okay, we agreed to 50%, they may say only 25%. And that'll come from the state, we have to adjust. I don't wanna scare anyone, it's probably not gonna happen, but things do change, it's a fluid situation. We still are under an emergency status, and whenever you have an emergency or a crisis of this nature, we have to be guided by the federal and the state mandates. I felt like our town was taken away from us because we couldn't do anything. And we were asking, or everybody was asking all these, and nobody knew what was happening. I saw it, I think it was in January, as I started seeing the virus go from country to country, and I see it, and then it hit New York City, and we were okay, and then all of a sudden, and this, the path that this virus took hit us last. And so we're gonna open probably last, and that's unfortunate. And I know that there's been a lot of pressure put on the governor and the county executive. They have been, the county executive, he's been advocating for us, and everything that we send up the food chain has to be cleared through a process, and there were things that he didn't agree, that didn't come to fruition, and that's life, and we need to move forward. Craig, I'm sorry.
I just had something for the board to consider.
Okay.
You've been talking on this application, you've been speaking about places of assembly as well as restaurants. In the state code, any restaurant with less than 50 people is not considered a place of assembly. All right, we have a number of restaurants around the town that are less than 50 people for their occupancy. So you need to consider whether we want to just have this for places of assembly, or do we want to also have it for the smaller restaurants?
So
The Chinese
everybody's
takeout,
inclusive.
places like that, which would
Yes.
still want to have.
Absolutely,
So-
and that would expand help out those businesses that are smaller. We also have to consider that this is a temporary, and we need to have a date on it. we cannot, as a town, move and change our coding. It can be done in two fashions, through legislation, as we're gonna do now, because I'm gonna put forward the resolution. But if, or we can do it through executive order, obviously we have enough time, let's do it through the executive order. If something changes, and sometimes things change quickly overnight, and we have to put this forward and not wait until next week for the resolution, I will do it through executive order, just so we can move forward. Time,
always
as
call
Frank
special
said,
meeting.
is of the essence, and every day that a restaurant can prepare to open, it's critical. It's very, very critical. And there was a discussion, and this is up to the board, I'll give you, my stance. Initially, people were considering main streets, their main streets. However, what happens to 58, and what happens to the smaller stores on side roads, and, hopefully, we all are gonna agree, possibly, we all agree that we go and we open this up to all Riverhead restaurants.
And it
Okay.
isn't just restaurants, we need to really look at all small business, period.
Absolutely. However, we are looking at phase one, and, all small businesses, they fall in within all those phases. There were small businesses in phase one, which we're addressing now, for the restaurants, and then there's, small businesses in phase two, there's small businesses in phase three. We need to concentrate on that model of what can open, whether you're small or large. And you're right, Catherine, we have to consider all of them.
But I think that's an excellent point that you bring up, because that struck a note with me when it was places of assembly, because of the 50 seating or less is not considered a place of assembly, so therefore, they wouldn't be permitted to have the outdoor seating. Specifically in downtown, where the restaurants are smaller and the spaces are smaller, I do have in all of your packets that I gave you, and I also have one for you, Craig, and one for you, Jefferson, from the Business Improvement District, where they showed where outdoor seating could go and where possible tents could go. So I guess when you guys come up later and we talk about the tents, then we can discuss where the businesses downtown that are built from property line to property line can utilize town space or parking districts and sidewalks in order to accommodate outdoor seating.
Craig, just for informational purposes, when
Yes.
you do a tent inspection, do you, generally find a lot of mistakes or errors that need to be corrected? Or are the companies that put up tents, are they familiar with the code? They should be. And
Most of-
familiar with our code, that you don't run into a heck of a lot of problems with that, or?
The companies that we deal with on a regular basis here in the town of Riverhead generally do a very good job.
They know what you expect.
Correct.
Right.
But we get companies from up west, from other areas, somebody who's just gotten into the business,
Mhm.
and we have issues. Those are the companies that we generally have issues with. But it's not to say that we still don't have the occasional issue with, with a company that we deal with on a regular basis.
Right.
But most of them know what we're looking for, and they take care of it.
Okay,
I think-
understood.
I think keeping our local tent companies busy, especially because they've lost all this business with catering and backyard parties and
Graduation
weddings
parties
and
and-
things of that nature, that we keep our local companies busy here. So, and if you're saying they're very familiar with what you're looking for, where other companies were not, we don't have any time to waste with our fire marshals to make sure that a company from up west is getting it right.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving forward, update,
One last thing, I
oh.
apologize, I wanna say one last thing before we move on to the next one. Last but not least, outdoor seating and food establishments must comply with the May 20th, 2020 Health Department guidance memorandum. And we have a copy of that we attached a copy to the application. Some of the things that they will need to show us is they need to give the narrative on how the tables and chairs and plates are gonna be sanitized. If I was gonna be a patron there, you wanna know that they're following the proper protocols, and they need to show some safe guidance, and also a location of hand sanitizing stations, just so that everybody knows that we're still in the midst of this pandemic, so.
and I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. That was another, area that we had to address. This town board cannot say we're having outside sitting. We needed to go to get guidance from the, Department of Health. We put that up, I think, on the 20th of May, and 2 days later, we we were approved to follow this outside eating initiative.
Yep.
And that was very important. This needed to be in place, and we were able to obtain it, and hence we're here, trying to move this forward.
I don't see that May 20th attached to the application.
No, it hasn't been yet, it will be. I have it
Okay.
here. And if you'd like to get a copy of it, I'll send a copy to you.
Yeah, you could email it to all of us, that'd be great. I'm curious as to what they're looking for.
Yeah,
And-
it's pretty generic, but it's important to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I know after the conference call with Restaurant and Tavern Association on Tuesday that the county exec was calling the health department so I'm glad that they moved on that he was successful, that the supervisors and mayors and the county exec were successful in that. And then also the SLA, State Liquor Authority, is also looking at fast-tracking a process so that they can have off-premise catering for our restaurants downtown where they're not serving alcohol on the property, but they can actually serve it on town property. So, we need to look at that also.
I think there's a possible approach to attempt to modify that and include alcoholic beverages.
Yep.
Which is great, and that's an effort, and we're also waiting for approval on that. That would really tighten things up. I think when people will be outside, they would feel more comfortable.
I agree.
There may be other people who will go into a restaurant, however, it's the summer, you wanna be on the riverfront, you wanna look down the riverfront, you wanna be near the aquarium having a drink outside. I think it's something that would enhance, and as soon as that guidance is sent down to us, I will make sure that it's sent out and addressed.
Speaking from personally, it's hard to have a steak without a beer.
Or a burger.
In looking at our agenda, I'm just going to suggest that we move up tents in downtown, because that really plays into all of the discussion that we're having,
Okay,
and
so-
it makes sense to keep it all together. So I'm just gonna ask if we could move that up and have that discussion now.
Sure, and I know when we started seeing the ramifications of COVID on our businesses and closing, and Councilwoman Giglio had jumped on board and said, we gotta work on this, we gotta move forward, and she asked around for permits, for recommendations. She has reached out to the businesses, and she wanted to address the tents in town and the possibility. It looks like it can happen now, and we move this outside seating forward as a board, that can happen, and you had requested to take the lead on it, and Catherine Kent also agreed to work on reopening in phase 1 in the restaurants. And Jody, you wanna?
Yeah, I just wanna
Tell
thank
us
you
what-
for, I did send out an email, I think it was about a month ago, saying that we need to be ready when these phases open to get the restaurants open, and we need to make sure that we have the proper protocols in place for outdoor seating. And if the companies wanted tents to shield their people from the sun or from the rain, that we should allow them to have tents and waive the tent permits, and reach out to the bid and reach out to the chamber to figure out in downtown where places could accommodate tents, and then either dividing spaces and, letting them have seating outside in the tents, even if it was one big tent or a few tents. So I would thank you for working with me and the board in fast-tracking this, because it's important to all of us that our businesses are getting opened. And, being a business owner for the last 27 years, it's very important to get it fast-tracked. So I appreciate that. And I think that we cover tents for the most part. That I think it's important that if we do hire a part-time person into the fire marshal's office specifically for inspections and enforcement, that is all that person is doing, is focusing on tent inspections and table inspections and, driving through on a daily basis, once everybody is up and running, making sure that everybody is keeping their social separation distances, and are in the guidelines, and signing on to that form that they inspected every single day, just like our traffic control officers do in the summer at the beaches. Just keep it on a rotation and keep going, and, fast tracking these permits, so. And I don't know that they're gonna even be able to handle it with just that one person, but, it is a priority to the town board, but so is the review of new applications that are coming in, that are under review for a site plan and for fire marshal, so that they could actually get their building permit. Cause, with looking at these budget numbers that have been given to us from, you know, our chief financial officer, we're in bad shape. So we really need to get those building permit fees in, and we need to get people back working again in their construction jobs and getting the economy moving.
And we're coming. Are you done with the tent stuff? Cause I wanted to throw something else in.
Yeah.
Just a little thought about everything, just wanted to throw another idea out there. I mean, it's been a challenging time for all of us, especially small business, but I always feel as though good can come of bad. And I think that we can learn from this experience. And if you think about it, the model that we're moving towards is sort of like the Alive on 25 model. And that's something that the town likes. When we did the whole pattern book survey, people in the town really loved the events in Riverhead, and they liked that whole experience of being downtown. So with all that said, I did read an article in Greenport, it's just something for us to think about, that they're considering closing off some of their streets, and I think that's something that I would like us to look into, possibly maybe on Saturday night and at certain times, if we could just possibly close off the, Main Street, that would have nice areas for us to have seating. Just another thing that I would like to think about, closing off some of the streets on occasion, if we could figure that out logistically.
Just, we're talking about tents in the downtown parking district, just so everybody knows, the parking district is in full agreement to allow the parking district properties to be used for this purpose.
Yeah, and if you look at the layout that the bid and that the chamber gave us, it's not eliminating parking
Right.
spaces, it's putting the tents on the borders of the parking spaces and then just rerouting the traffic. So, you know, there's a few restaurant owners that I spent a lot of time talking to the owner of the Dark Horse yesterday, about an hour in the parking lot, about, you know, there's a few restaurants that object to it because they actually have property that they could put tables on, you know, but other business owners don't. So I think it's important that we look at what everybody wants and what we think is the best vision for the town versus,
And just to reiterate what Bob Kern said, it's not gonna be a one-size-fits-all model. Everybody is gonna have a
Never.
different
Correct.
need, so we
Yeah.
are gonna have to be flexible going forward.
absolutely.
Well, when we talk about parking, because people are always saying there's not enough parking in Riverhead, but, the study, as you all know, showed that we do have enough parking, it's just that people don't wanna walk.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's just a thought, if you close off just that Main Street area, and, you know, it'd be cool to have tables out there and have people strolling about, and, you know, park a few blocks away and walk. These are things that we've actually been thinking about and talking about, and this gives us an opportunity to try it out, because we are doing this temporarily, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to think about something like this.
Yep, and I think it's important too, and I think we need to run it by our emergency services, like our ambulance corps and our fire marshal, our fire
Right.
departments, in order to make sure that they have a standby ambulance that can access people if there's something that happens on Main Street, just
Right.
like we do at Alive on 25. Make sure that they have the resources that they need in order to have somebody nearby.
Well,
Mhm.
obviously, we'd have to do all that, but that's why I wanted to just throw that out there as another idea for us to even discuss.
Yeah, any time that you change the direction of zoning and coding and, the safety protocols are, must be always in place.
Yeah.
So that's a good
Well, I
point
always
that you brought up.
love Burlington, Vermont, they have street areas that are closed off, and it's just such a wonderful area to walk about, which might work for us, but this is an opportunity for us to try that out, because we are doing this as a temporary fix. And as I said, I think good can come of bad. We can figure out things to be progressive and move Riverhead forward, which is what we want.
All right, so Councilwoman Giglio and Kent will be, charged with the reopening and the, outside sitting, permitting that we're working on.
And
And
obviously,
thank you for volunteering.
we wanna hear feedback from any of our other board
Yes.
members too, and
And keep me
welcome their
apprised.
ideas as well.
And keep me apprised as you
Mhm.
develop an ideas. I think that this is, an exciting, project. Unfortunately, we had to get to this level, and, I'm confident that we're gonna be able to get Riverhead back. I just want everyone to know, another fierce battle that we had was, when the first stimulus bill did not include, Riverhead. It only included townships, counties that had 2 million people or more. Since we are, a region, you compare Nassau population with, Suffolk populations, and we only reached, I think it's about 1.8 million in population, so we were cut out of that stimulus bill. We decided to go fight the war, and we had, letters driven up to Washington to make a point, and, I'm happy to report that 2 weeks ago, Washington listened, and now we qualify for, federal aid.
That's
As
great.
far as getting it,
Checks in the mail.
that's on paper. We now can qualify.
Along with our
They
bonus.
lowered the threshold from 2 million people to 500,000. And, did not apply, we were not eligible through the, Municipal Liquidity Act, and, because they had the population, and, we did, win that battle, and now we're gonna start again, to fight and continue to ensure that we get whatever federal funding. There's some, prospective bills that are gonna be put forward. Hopefully this week I'll become knowledgeable of them. We do a lot of research, and, rest assured that we will, do everything that we can to, ensure that we get the federal funding. There is, FEMA money out there. We need to, ensure that we apply, that we follow all their protocols, and, some of our expenses, do fall within their guidelines, and, we're gonna continue forward. Chief Hagermiller, who's been our FEMA, emergency response designated individual. That's not something town board can say, you're the FEMA designated. He's been in this capacity for 24 years as the federal disaster manager. And, he is very, very knowledgeable of, putting in for reimbursement, and he is keeping, track of all the expenses, and he will be putting them forward. And, as we move on, hopefully we will get our fair share of federal funding. There are some numbers floating out there that I heard yesterday. I have to go double check. I understand, as I'm sitting here, the county executive call. I don't know if it was to give me good news, but I'll be here I'm waiting to see, what it is, and, if it's concerning funding, I will ensure that I notify our community. It's important that we know that we are gonna get assistance, and, we will work night and day. We are here, some of us 7 days a week, and we will continue to do to follow through on the federal component, the state component, and to ensure that we get our fair share. Okay.
Can you fill us in on what these tracers, because I know we're short on 2 of the 7
Okay.
requirements, and, you know, one of them is tracers, and one of them is the number of deaths that we have within our region.
Right.
In order to get to the next phase.
Okay.
And I did get your email about they're looking to employ tracers
Yes.
in order to, I guess, calculate the number of people that have been tested positive with COVID-19, and then where they're going and what they're doing thereafter. And I'm hearing a big rumble in the community about that people don't want people tracking them and tracing them. So not only are people saying they don't want the jobs tracking and tracing people, but people don't want to be tracked and traced. So how are we ever going to get to that point where we have the number of tracers in order to meet that requirement of the, 7. When that's what I'm hearing in the community, is that people don't wanna they don't wanna do this tracing job.
Okay, so if anybody is interested, you can go online into New York Forward website. I understand that there's 3 levels of, employment, and one of them pays, I think it's, $57,700. And it's a 1-year job, employment, status, and it has full benefits. According to, the federal, Department of Health, we need to have this in place, and we cannot get away from it. It's a mandate, so we do have to follow it. Unfortunately, because we're a region, and we have $1.8 million, a region that has 400,000 people, it's very easy to get the traces. And, so we need a substantial amount, more than other regions. So it's taking us longer. I know that they've been working endlessly, requesting tracers. I think I sent you out, their request. If anybody's interested, go online, or each one of us, and we will give you the information. They were conducting interviews all weekend long. I happen to know 2 people who volunteered for it and was informing me of the process. And the process is usually moving forward within 3 days. So they review your application, they'll send it forward. Within an hour, you might get a call. They are interviewing you. You're going forward. You're doing some online training, and then there'll be a last interview, and the process can be pretty shortly. I know that there's been a huge effort to recruit these tracers, and we need to meet that regardless of how we feel, how the public feels. It's a mandate to open. I believe it's the easiest of the 2 that we have, because all you need is the amount of people, as opposed to deaths that you can't control. The other metrics that we haven't met is the death rate, and we can't control that, but we can control the quantitative part of it, is getting the amount of traces that we need. I believe we may have met it. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that we did not need a lot of traces as of Friday, when we broke.
So is that, I know you sent it to us, and I know, I saw that you had posted, or you sent out a press release on it, then is that on the website so that people
That's
can
what I was
access
saying.
it?
Yes, we have it we have a constant, ongoing, report that we get. Some of the information from the 311 reports there were 311 reports that are sent from the county to us. Some of it is not necessarily specific to the public. It might have something to do with a certain form to submit for aid or something. It's not specific to the public. But we try to extract as much as we want, and we put that out as much as we can out to the public. But all of it is available on the New York Forward website.
So
and-
how to become a tracer is available on the New York Forward website?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of people have reached out about that, and I believe it's a pretty well-paying job. I think it pays $27 an hour for the tracers, if I'm correct. And for people who are laid off and looking for work. Other thing I wanna mention, even though it's a little random, another job that pays well is for the census. That's another thing that people could look at, and, certainly I hope everybody's filling out the census, cause it makes a difference. It really is helpful to the town.
And getting back to the death rates, again, we can't control that. However, and
Coming down.
we need to contact Albany to find out if in fact they did lower it. I was told on Saturday that it was lowered for Long Island, and we're gonna be moving forward. And as a result of that, that's why the governor, indicated on TV that it looks like we're opening on Wednesday. Otherwise, we would have been wondering for the next 2 weeks. So there are a lot of external efforts that are being, pursued to move this forward.
It's amazing
hopefully
that the number of deaths and how the deaths are being, basically, well, a lot of the deaths are saying that it's COVID-19 because the reimbursements and because of the federal money that's gonna come in to the state for the COVID-19. I mean, I know people that passed away that were sick and had, you know, several underlying illnesses that, you know, they were in bad shape before they went into the hospital. And then when they went into the hospital, they became COVID-19 and then they passed. And that is being considered that it's COVID-19 why they passed. So I think that there's a lot of that out there too.
Not, I mean, we all know there's a lot of deaths, so, I mean, we're nearing,
Yeah.
we're nearing the 100,000 number, so,
It's
yeah.
336,000.
And
It's
circling,
definitely something that we need to get it right.
Yeah, and make sure that the deaths are properly allocated so that we are under the deaths where we need to be in order to reopen business in New York State.
and circling back to your traces, yes, there is a concern, the information that these traces are seeking are more on the, what the CDC calls the surveillance. They're actually surveilling the disease, so they can see where outbreaks are and control them. Whether you agree with the approach or not, this is the CDC's approach, that if you're gonna open up a region and you might have an outbreak in Greenport, how do we find out what's going on? Because they're all going to one or two hospitals. So you find an influx, a surge in COVID cases. You're not sure where they're coming from because everybody's been anywhere. And if you can pinpoint and identify a Greenport through these traces, then you know that that's your hot spot, and you can take protocols to, and put certain protocols in place to try to control that contamination rate there. And the second question, that people don't want to release information, the information excuse me, is totally confidential. It falls under what's called the HIPAA, the Health Insurance Protection Act, and the information will not be disseminated except for surveillance purposes and analysis to the CDC. And these individuals are directed, they have to sign an affirmation that none of this information will be passed to anyone. They're actually, the primary concern there, the reasoning for contact traces is to, again, surveil, see where it's going and try to control it. If you have an outbreak in Greenport, and not using Greenport, I'm not singling them out, I just know that they're the furthest away, actually Orient Point is, but there was some concerns there. People have indicated that they may have been an outbreak, a hotspot, which was never true. They've been along the line of every other town or hamlet. They haven't had any different heightened levels as people are indicating, and we got to make that clear. If you have an outbreak, let's say again in a hotspot in Greenport, you want to be able to get to it. You want to be able to trace it. You want to be able to tell people, this is what you do. These are the guidelines. This is, do you need food so you don't leave? So you're trying to contain it because you don't want the county to close again.
No.
So, that's the purpose, and again, you can,
It's interesting, because I'm curious as to how they're gonna trace all those people that were at that pool party in Michigan or wherever they were. I mean, there were
That was terrible.
thousands of people there, and so by reaching out to each one of those people that were there and saying, who did you talk to within the last 14 days, and making sure that they're quarantined or security bracelets, I mean, I just don't see where it's going and how it's possibly going to function properly when you have big events like that, or people on the beach, or people, in Lowe's and Home Depot.
Well, that's why we
who do
need-
they talk to? Who was the cash register clerk? Who did she talk to? It's just.
It was crowded, and that's why we need to get it right. And if you follow and watch what's happening in the other states, like they're having an outbreak in Arkansas right now, and I can't remember which state it was either Arkansas or Texas, I think, where it was one fellow that went out that had it, and went out and about, and they've traced him to 85 other cases. But just to go back to your point, Yvette, I'm gonna make a suggestion that we don't wanna intimidate people, so let's not say surveil, let's say monitor.
Okay, monitor, surveil,
That's 'cause you're law-
I'm
you-
using
'cause we have law
CDC language,
enforcement.
I'm sorry, I'm using CDC language.
We don't wanna scare people.
But, you know, Jody, back to that point that you just raised, at least we identify where it came from, as opposed to not letting people know you were in that pool and they go around and go, and they don't, at least now they can say, if you were there, watch, you know, so they're trying to contain it, and that's their, you know, their model to trying to identify who, and you know what? If somebody doesn't have COVID and they're not symptomatic, doesn't stop people that were in that pool from going out.
Oh, yeah, and they
Right.
could be asymptomatic, where they never have any symptoms.
Exactly.
So instead of self-quarantine for 14 days, they're just back out there again, and, I don't know, we'll see.
Well, things like that pool party and that water park, I mean, those are things that actually set us back. We've worked so hard, we've come so far, and we don't wanna have setbacks. We wanna keep moving forward, so that we can reopen, and when people do silly stuff like that, that just sets us backwards, actually.
People are having COVID parties. They're sharing masks and drinking beer.
You can't police stupid.
Very. Okay, Jody, are you done with the tents?
I am.
Okay, moving forward. Big question of the day, budget review. Rothar, Ken?
Yeah, I'm just going to, I know everybody on the board wants to talk about this. I brought it up because I just feel like it's really a timely issue. And Bill, I did talk with Bill the other day. Bill, I just want to focus on the general fund. You know, we did budget 51.3 million in the general fund. Our tax levy is 40 million. Our estimated revenue we have is 11. So I wanna talk with you, Bill, about where we're gonna fall with that number and get our updated, revenue coming in. And Bill, if we can, 'cause you gave me this, I think you gave it to everybody, I'm guessing.
Yeah, in the email.
Gave us these updated numbers, and I just have a couple of things in the revenue columns that I'd like to go over, and I have questions about. So,
Okay,
that's okay?
yes, absolutely. I just, if I can
Did you wanna do an opening first, or is it okay if I go right into that?
you know, I'm just gonna mention something, and
Okay.
then you can go on. And Councilwoman Kent had mentioned was the general fund. What I just gave you, the first sheet is actually page 3 of our townwide budget for 2020. And we're looking at the general fund because of all the other funds, not including water and sewer, who collect rents. The general fund has about 80% of their revenue from taxes, and it's the other 20% that we are concerned with, or we're gonna look further into. Most of the other funds are 100% or 99% from taxes, so the revenue side, we're not too concerned on those other funds. The other thing I also wanted to mention is that the information we went over and what everyone got emailed on last week was for the week ending Friday, the 17th, or whatever the date was. The stuff I just gave you was for the week ended last Friday. So the stuff you have in front of you is just a week further ahead than what Catherine may have in her notes.
Right, yeah, I spent some time looking at this, I just wanted to pull out a few of the items, Bill, and have questions, or even, you know, I know some of it you may not have the answers, cause the numbers are ever changing, but at least these are things that we can inquire about. So I started on the first page, on pilot programs, Bill. We have 750,900 projected for pilot payments, pilot programs. Is that what we're bringing in? What is it that we're bringing in, actually?
So we have 2 types of pilot payments that get made. One is through IDA, which they're pretty conservative in their budget, what they tell us back in August or September of last year. We always wind up coming in a little higher on those. The other ones we have are separate pilot agreements that we have with 3 separate entities. Those come in exactly per our schedule with them. So we should be 50,000 or more over what we projected, depending on how conservative the IDA was in their projection to us.
Okay, great. On sales tax, we had, you can see our projected number in sales tax revenue, 1,715,300. What are you projecting we will receive from the county? And I didn't know, Yvette, I know you have a lot of conversations with the county. I didn't know if they gave you a projection as to the reduction that we're going to get in sales tax. Maybe they said a reduction might be 10%, 25%. I didn't know if you had that information.
That won't be established until they know what kind of funding they're getting for the federal government, and that's not anything that we're gonna have anytime in the near future until we see this pandemic come to a conclusion, and that's down the line. They do have funding that they received, because remember, we were on part of the first stimulus bill. They received $247 million, and not too sure Riverhead's gonna see any of it, but
So on that money, that is what the county has allocated to us, to
Right.
Riverhead. They allocate a certain amount to each of the 5 East End towns because we have our own police force.
Right.
So that's an agreement we have with them. When they give us the budget in 19 for 20, that's what they have set aside in their budget. So I would expect we would receive that in any other case, we would receive that. However, we are in a pandemic, so I'm not sure, but I'm assuming we're gonna receive all that. But if you notice in the sheets that I just gave you, I have it yellow, because I'm not sure, and I know it could be something that we have to look at for 2021, when they put their budget forward and say, we're reducing that by some percentage.
Right, I would think we're gonna be hearing from them that there's going to be a reduction in the sales tax that we're getting, and so that's something that I think we need to pay close attention to, and when you find that out, maybe you pass that along.
And we
to us.
normally receive sometime in August a confirmation for next year when we're doing our budget. So we'll know that for 2021, but my concern obviously would be for 2020. If I don't hear anything, my assumption would be that what they budgeted for is what they're gonna give us. They would have to let us know something else. And you guys may have more information than me on that. Whatever information I receive is how I'm kinda estimating some of the stuff. So if I haven't heard anything, I highlighted it because it would be an area of concern because of the dollar amount, but I
Right.
don't know that we wouldn't receive it at this point.
So that's something I hope we get apprised of. On the special event fees, certainly we've been getting emails, a lot of the events have been canceled or postponed. Wondering where we are with these fees. We budgeted 48,400, but our actual so far is 5,620 in the numbers that you gave me. So wondering where we are with those special event fees.
Okay, so.
And it's interesting, if I can interrupt for just 1 second, because if you look at what we actually took in 2019 for special event fees, we only took in 11,480, but we anticipated that we were gonna be collecting 48,400 for those events,
So let me explain what that is, because it's a little misleading here, but what I'm doing in my projections, I'm taking 2 numbers. So that 11,480 is through this week of 19. So I'm comparing 20 through this week
Oh,
versus
exactly where we
19
are.
through this week.
Okay.
But the other thing I'm taking is what we've received for this many weeks through the year versus how many weeks we have left. So when I do a projection, I'm taking both of those numbers and trying to determine when we start collecting the same amount every week, or depending on season, whatever it may be, where will we be versus where are we compared to last year at this point? So the number that you see, and I'm projecting this week now, $10,000 for that. Now, we've received 5,600. If we turn around and in 2 weeks we start planning for events in July and August, we may exceed that 10,000. But I'm trying to be conservative here, not knowing where we're going. That's why if you look at the 3rd page, which we'll get to at some point, my projections every week change ever so slightly. And just like the when we did the pause, how your curve goes like this, right? I'm thinking our revenue curve is gonna go the opposite. Once we open up and people are starting to do business again, we're gonna start seeing an increase in the average amount of these revenues week by week, and that's why the more data we have, the better I can project where we're gonna be.
And certainly, I think it's better to err on the conservative side, and as we discussed the other day, I think the budget was done conservative, the budget overall was conservative on revenue, and that certainly has been helpful to us in this. Onto building inspection fees, I don't know that Jefferson has anything, but I'm just wondering what's the projection from building and planning as to what building inspection fees will be. Obviously, our goal is off target here. Will we reach the 900,000?
Right, so I'm budgeting, I'm projecting 570. We received 222 to date and 300,000 last year to date. The 570 again is a mixture of what we've received week by week versus what we received at this time last year.
So your budget, so we're projecting 900, we had planned for 900,000, but you're projecting overall the 570?
Correct.
Jefferson, did you want to weigh in on that at all, or?
And Bill, it would be helpful if you, just so that when we look back at these reports, I mean, it's 5/21/2020 on the bottom where it says projected, but if you could put 2019 actual as per time period and then the same as
Before we change that
2020.
column, so it's
Just say time period versus actual. Thank you. Or actual to date.
In anticipation of the
comparison?
question being asked, I had staff pull out the numbers. Up to March 12th, we had taken in 225, or issued 225 building permits, and took in a revenue of $228,543. That's before, up to March 12th.
That was March, as of March what?
12th.
Is that for planning, is that for site plans and building permits or
No,
just?
that's just building permit.
Cause he says that you only have 222,179 to date. That's as of May 21st. And you're saying as of March, you received 228,543.
228,543. And then, in the 9 weeks since then, we took in, we issued only 74 building permits, and only took in 42,764.
Thanks,
So-
Jeff.
So the year-to-date revenue is 271,307,
Is right now,
right now, yeah.
okay.
And I deliberately put in a low number for this year, when we did our budget last year, because I was expecting an economic downcline
Right,
long before all this hit us. So,
and, yeah, our conservative numbers on revenue, thank God we have those. All right, thanks, Jeff.
sure.
But the same inverted curve, Bill, you would say would apply to building
Yes.
permits as well?
Yep.
And we do have a number of building applications that are currently, like, a very big one, like Hobby Lobby, a 55,000 square foot retail building. That'll be a very big number.
Good. On rental applications, Bill,
Yes.
are applications down on this, down?
Yeah, and this is one that's a little bit harder, because when you look at these, even though I'm having two statistics that I'm looking at to try and project, some of these, it could be that people are gonna do the same renting, they just couldn't come in and pay the bill yet because either we were closed or whatever it may be, and not knowing where we were going. So if they're gonna have the same rental, these are yearly rentals from what I understand, and I can confirm that. At some point, they're gonna renew their rental fee.
But
It
we
could-
also had a death in the department, and the person that tracked it and actually sent out the notices telling people to renew their rental permits hasn't been there for many months. And then the COVID hit just as we hired somebody to send out those letters and follow up on it. So the revenue has to come in, but it varies from year to year. So
Right.
one year we take in 120,000, the next year we take in closer to 80,000, because based on the cycle of when the permits are renewable. So it's.
Well, and that was my other question, I mean, obviously, the market's really fluctuating, so will someone be tracking and monitoring this, because I think this is gonna be fluctuating.
So again, my number, if you look at it, it's half of what we budgeted, so I think that's very conservative. But I also understand that people are trying to get out of the city and come out here where it's less populated, so I
Right.
would imagine that number may be too conservative. But again, I won't know, and as time goes on, I can see. Again, I don't wanna project, because I think that perhaps people are gonna come out here for the summer more than ever. I don't wanna project the number too high, so they're very conservative, and that's why I think, as Councilman just mentioned, that curve will be going up as, we start collecting numbers. Some of the numbers that Jefferson had, or the number that Jefferson had mentioned, you gotta remember, we are about a week behind in collecting those, because by the time he gets them and then processes them and sends them to us, it'll be a little less than that going forward, because we're all at work and get that stuff on a bi-daily basis as opposed to a weekly basis. So our numbers will catch up to his shortly.
But
Okay.
back to the rental permits, Catherine, just years ago, when we increased the increased the permit fees in order to pay for the computer software programming that we were putting in place in order to better track these and better let the public know that their permits were expiring, we increased the rental permit fees, and then we also put penalties in place. So If you're renting your house out and you have not taken out your rental permit, just because we don't have somebody sending you out a reminder letter, those rental applications are due in and will be date stamped. So you should get your rental permit applications in, even though you may not have been able to speak to somebody in the division. You know when your rental permit is expiring, you gotta renew it on time, otherwise there's gonna be penalties on top of that. So that number will definitely go up.
And on to fire inspection fees. I feel like we need to check with the fire inspectors unless Jeff has, fire marshals, unless Jeff has that information as to where we're gonna be on this number. We projected 150,000, but our actual right now is 33,208. That's a pretty big difference.
And I'm projecting 78,000 at this point.
Okay, site plan fees, I'm wondering if planning think we will reach our budgeted number, of 150,000, our actual right now is 34,285. Okay. Rental income, did we put out the bid for the cell towers?
Did we put out a bid for them? So the cell towers, we have two types of towers. We have ones that are on water district property, and then other towers that are on town-owned property. We only have one current lease on town property. I think we had another one that we've been negotiating for the last year or so. I don't know where we are in it. I will check on that.
Bob, were you working on that?
Barker is, right?
We haven't entered into an agreement.
Okay.
But it's our legal counsel Barker that's working on that, right? Our outside counsel for the cell companies? Cause we don't have,
Maybe you
Yeah.
should come to the mic. Okay.
So we have several, if not many, on the water district, towers. Again, we have one and we have another one that I don't know where it is. I will follow up and see where we are with that one. I don't know if there's any other places that are looking to, any other town-owned facilities that they're looking to put these on.
All right, thank you. State aid mortgage tax, I'm wondering where we, if we're on track for this. We budgeted 1.2, and our actual is 300,582.
Yeah, and that's 1 quarter, so obviously if we multiply that by 4, we're right on target, but I don't know where that's going, with interest rates fluctuating and are people gonna be refinancing and all that stuff. We don't know how many people are coming out here looking to purchase property again to get further out east or purchase land, I don't know. So, I mean, I'm still projecting 825,000. I don't think we'll be at 1.2, but hopefully my projection again is a little too conservative and I can increase that over time.
Okay, and those are all the specific things that I have right now. I don't know if you want to address at all changes due to the COVID, changes.
I have a question on an item.
Okay.
So on page 2, in the middle of the page where it says fines and forfeited bail, I see last year at this time, we took in 102,000, and we did post to have bail last year. It wasn't until January 1st of this year that we stopped requiring bail. And so I'm happy to see that we are now at, compared from last year when there was bail, and this year there is no bail. Last year was 102,000, this year we've collected 183,619. So that means that code enforcement is working, because it's not based on bail money, it's based on fines. And I wanna just acknowledge that for our supervisor that has been driving the force on code enforcement. Our revenues are up. Code enforcement is key. We've increased the number of code enforcement officers, and we have them working on scattered shifts, even on the weekends, so it's a good effort. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of complaints that are coming in. We are still backed up, especially because we've been so restricted as to how much work we can do, but I think that we are definitely going to be meeting our projection as far as the fines and forfeited bail, so I'm happy to see that. But I do have questions about code enforcement, and that is on here as the last item, agenda item. So I'm hoping, once we Catherine is done getting her report from Bill, that she'd like to see, that we could jump right into code enforcement.
Absolutely. And before we go on, I would like to make a recommendation to the board that we consider utilizing a different approach for outstanding fines. People have fines that have been out there for 10 years, they're probably not gonna pay them. I believe, I wanna try to put forward a resolution for overdue outstanding fines, where we waive the actual fines, up to 50%. And hopefully that would encourage people to come forward that haven't paid and say, hey, I'm getting a 50% break on the penalties. We're only talking about the penalties, not the actual fines. And, hopefully I'm gonna put that, I think that will generate some funds.
I think that's a great idea. I'm just curious as to how far you're going for the look back.
We're gonna look back as much as, because the
'Cause
longer
if they
they're.
just got one a year ago or 2 years ago, then it doesn't make sense, but if it's 10 years ago, 5 years ago, then maybe yes, it does.
That's something we'll discuss the date. Some towns have implemented a similar system in place. We'll work it out, the actual details. Some have agreed to make it current because we're under financial stress. That way they can collect whatever, and we're only talking about the penalties. And that would encourage people so they'll pay them instead of saying, well, I'll just accumulate and maybe I'll get to pay a year or two from now. So, that's a matter of discussion that we can have by no later than Thursday, and we can tighten it up and move forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I have the police department looking at the outstanding fees, and we'll have a better understanding hopefully today, what that may indicate as far as generating funds.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so.
Oh, sorry, Annette.
Oh, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Just to finish up, thank you, by the way, for this document, which was helpful. So, Bill, I didn't know, because we had projected 11.2 million for the estimated, for our estimated revenue, I didn't know if you had a new projection for that number.
So if you go to page 3 on the new document I just gave you, that's the end. That document has revenues in the front and expenditures in the back. I'll just simply say with expenditures, for right now, we're on pause, and I think when we have our next meeting.
Are you talking about this document that I have?
The 15-page document I
You didn't
just
hand me
gave.
something this morning.
Yeah, I did. The updated document of that. It's right there, I'm sorry.
This is it?
Yep. The first
Okay.
one is just the budget, and
All
then
right,
the
great.
rest. So in that one, the last 12 pages is your expenditures. As I said, we're on pause. I think we need to go through those, and maybe in the next work session, and bring whatever questions you may have on those. I'm just considering right now, we are on pause, and where we need to save money to make up for lost revenue is what we will discuss as far as the expenditures. But
And
if
I
you,
appreciate you getting us this information. I mean, I know I had requested a few weeks ago, and I said, can you give us monthly updates? And you said, I'm gonna do better than that. I'm gonna give you weekly updates. So it is very much appreciated.
and I'd like to do that weekly going forward, so that, you have
Our budget
more
officer.
information out there that you hear than I do that can help me make these projections, and even the department heads can do that, because I'm making it a statistical projection, and you may know more of what's going on out there, and we're just waiting, for the dam to open so people can come and start opening their business or whatever it may be. So I encourage any input from the board to help me calculate these numbers.
We don't have an actual new projection on the
Well, I do.
estimated revenue then?
Yeah, if you look on page 3, so the number is up to now 1,000,001, where we were just under 1 million in week 1. So we've done this for 4 straight weeks. It went from 977 to 1,106,000. And again, that's the downgrade that I'm talking about, where I hope that now we start going up and getting back to below the 1 million, maybe even as close as we can to what we have estimated. Okay, so doing this every week, and now that we're all back and maybe getting more revenues coming in, I hope to see that number start going the other way at some point in the next week or so. Okay, but so now we're 1,100,000 potentially shy if everything falls the way I'm saying. And as you noticed in all of these projections, they are conservative, so thinking we're gonna go the other way.
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
very good projection and very helpful information for the supervisor, I'm sure, in going to the federal, for that $3 trillion that's coming out to make sure that we recuperate some of that money that we've lost because of the COVID-19.
That is being addressed. We need to understand that we may not be able to submit. It may come in the form of a grant that we're pursuing.
Okay.
And we'll see where we are, and we'll distribute it accordingly. On that note, and I'm glad you brought that up, there was some indicator as far as our employees. At one point, people understood that the employees were getting paid double time at home. I'm sure everybody's heard of it. And there is the time that that's not true. Employees that were able to work virtually did work virtually. The employees that did come in were essential employees. We needed to keep our water going. We needed to keep a certain amount of services from our clerk's office, our sewers, and some parts of the building and grounds who were constantly working to clean up all our town buildings. And they have received what's called comp time. It's not monetary time. It's time that they can use within the next year, year and a half, pending staffing levels. And all that was vetted by the labor attorney. So they really are not gonna have employee costs for the COVID virus.
Yeah,
I
and
just
I-
wanna make that very clear that, and also, they are getting comp time only because it's in the contract. And it states that if you come in under state of emergency, you get compensation for it. The contract states that it's monetary, or you can use it as comp, and it was designated under state emergency that it'd just be comp. And I just wanna make sure that that was cleared, so there will be no financial stress on the budget concerning employees.
Right, and I think that you and the chief have done a good job as far as who you're calling into work. I know the receiver's office is inundated right now
Yes,
with the taxes
absolutely.
getting paid, so we need to have some of those employees, but also in keeping in mind that you've been doing a very good job at keeping the staff limited to 25% of the workforce, which was another requirement. And I know that a lot of times when I call at the town hall, it's mostly the department heads that are in the departments working, and it's not the employees bringing them in, so.
And they don't get comp time.
And managing, and then the department heads don't get comp time. So I think it's been managing well, and I was satisfied with the response that I got when I asked the question, so,
Well,
thank you.
And to everybody, to your points, we do have really great employees in Riverhead. We have a great workforce, and for me, I just wanna make sure that it's all equitable.
And then I also asked for special permits to be on the agenda, but we have a full agenda today, so I'm sure it'll be on there next Thursday for the
Yes.
special event permits, seeing as we are short in revenue there. I think that there's some things that we can do as far as the code that we
Absolutely. It
adopted
is on
with the
for Thursday.
timeframes lapsed and trying to get these businesses to bring people to their establishments with the proper separation distances when we do open up, so that they're not filing today for a permit for 45 days or 90 days from now, which by the time they're ready to apply for it, we would be in the middle of the winter. So if we can look at fast tracking some of those special permit applications, I think that that would be revenue income, and it would really help out the local businesses.
Yes, and that's on the agenda.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
If I could, that's a great segue, Jody. On Thursday, we do have 3 applications coming, gonna be Zoom in. 331 East Main Street, the former Subway building, is a big one that's coming in on Thursday. We need some feedback from you. We're working for completing the secret process on that. That's the next step in the process. We're still waiting to hear from SHPO on that.
Jeff, did you get your final stuff from the ARB on that? ARB and Landmarks are.
Landmark, one of the questions they're
Weighed
gonna-
in on that?
That's going to be one of the big issues for you on Thursday. Landmarks wants to see if the town board is willing to entertain saving and relocating the building that's out in front. That's going to be a big discussion item on Thursday.
You mean in back? In the back, the building in the back.
Behind Subway?
Behind
The
Subway.
historic building.
Behind
Yeah.
Subway?
And you've all seen my emails on that and correspondence back and forth between Richard Wines and I, yes?
Yes.
With the pictures of the building, and the second story is what was historically significant, but I know there are several questions that you have, and Greg has in order to move those applications forward. So I appreciate that those will be before
Yeah,
us on Thursday.
parking, we own the parking lot behind that, their property. The aquarium uses that parking, for its employees, also for a lot of its deliveries. I have pictures of a water delivery truck right behind that property line. That cannot be interfered with.
Jeff, I
Yeah.
just wanted to see if Bill was finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jay? I'm finished.
I just
If
want to
anyone else
see,
has questions,
sorry, was there anything else you wanted to add, Bill?
Just during the week, if there's anything else that you want for next week, just email me your request and I'll have it ready for next week.
Thank you, Bill.
And thank you for generating these documents for us.
Yeah, the weekly reports are helpful.
The second item that you're gonna be hearing is Akabog Medical Suite. This is the first time you've heard this. This is a special permit application to build a 15,000 square foot medical office building.
Is that the one that went from 2 stories?
No.
This is not-
That's
oh, this
on
is
the
across
east side of
street.
Union
This is the
Avenue.
other
This is
side
the
of
one on the
street.
west side of
Right.
Union Avenue. It's the same developer, but they're looking at building a one-story medical suite. There's already a medical office suite complex there now. This is like the second phase of it, behind it. So.
Who is that, Farrell?
Yep.
Farrell, yeah.
Yep. And then the third one is, you know, the former Capital One bank building, that's First National Bank wants to come and take that over, freshen it up, put an ADA access ramp. It's a simple application. We want to get that one in and out of here as fast as possible. And we've got other applications that we're already starting to line up for the following week as well. So we're trying to move things along as fast as we can.
What about the car wash on 58? We have gotten some comments on that as well.
It's in your packet for approval for the special permit. So next time we have a town board meeting, the resolution's there.
We'll go forward with it. Thank
Yep.
you. Okay,
Thanks, Jefferson.
Thank you.
Jody, code enforcement?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I've been getting a lot of phone calls and text messages and emails from people saying that the garbage, there's a lot of construction going on and like windows and planks and wood and, you know, demolition stuff that's been put out for garbage on non-bulk days. And I think that's a clear indicator that there's construction work going on, and I think that our code enforcement needs to be out in full force, making sure that, you know, I think code enforcement is, right now, if we're gonna give anybody comp time or, you know, have them come work and give them comp time, now's the time to do it while everybody's home, cause we can really see what's going on. And I know in other townships, code enforcement is at full force and they're paying attention to what's being left out at the curb for garbage pickup, and I think that that is how we are going to look at, on Pulaski Street, right next to the abandoned building, right on the corner of Pulaski and Roanoke. Right now, this morning, there's a pile of wood and windows and everything else, and there's a huge detached garage in the back that's, you know, there's 10 trucks in the driveway during the weekend. So I think we really need to start paying attention to that and having code enforcement out in full force. To me, they should be all working as if they, you know, never stopped.
I've had similar complaints, and I have to say, Bob Kozakevich from the top down has reacted to them very quickly and has mitigated a lot of the problems that people have made me aware of, so I just wanted to say that the
Yeah, they're
process
doing a
is
great
working.
job.
Yep, the process is working.
Well, we know that people are getting very anxious and concerned from being shut down for as long as they have been, and, you know, there is construction that's going on. I have had code enforcement coming in to address some of the stuff that's been discussed already. For example, with the rental renewals, we have been taking the applications in, we've been processing them, but we haven't been able to obviously go out and do the inspections where inspections are necessary. So we have been taking them in. What's been happening is we've been maintaining a file in our office, and Nicole has been coming in, Nicole has been going through those, making sure that they're complete and accurate. She's also been going through the renewals for the purpose of getting letters out. We are obviously gonna be a little bit behind on the IPS system, in the fact that we have a new person who's coming in, who's going to have to get acclimated and familiar with it, because it's not as intuitive as it can be, but once you do use it quite frequently, it's a great tool for tracking numbers and cases and things that are coming in. On that note, I can say from just an anecdotal standpoint, with respect to the Justice Court, we did have a number of tickets that went out just before we shut down. The reason I know that is because we use two companies primarily to do our service of process. Alexander Pool, when it's at the service on the Secretary of State, and locally Gotcha. And during the period of time while we were closed, a lot of those affidavits came in from the service on those folks. Hopefully, we'll be getting back and running it at Justice Court within the next, I hope, month. I don't think we're going to get really anything going this month, May, but maybe in June we'll start seeing the fruition of that work. We did start 3 Supreme Court actions before COVID took place. We have a couple others that were lined up to go. In fact, one, we were just about ready to go the week when we shut down, so we're going to need to update that. We did I think it's going to be a great case from an overcrowding standpoint, in addition to what we believe to be buildings being used for living arrangements that are not supposed to be used for living. I don't want to say too much.
No
but-
commercial building to be.
But you know, there's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting case. We also have one that's a property maintenance issue, so it's not an overcrowding, but a situation where it's been an ongoing nagging piece of property in the town of Riverhead. So those things are happening, and we'll obviously try to see a few more of those Supreme Court cases get going. Everything was shut down. As you know, the courts stopped any filings. Now that's going to start to ramp back up again because the court's reopening and allowing e-filing to take place. So we'll start seeing more at the Supreme Court level. And once we get back into the swing of things and start doing our inspections, we'll see more of those rental permits coming in.
And the reopening is done in stages
Right.
with a minimum of 50% of individuals. The courts are not gonna open at full capacity.
Well, it's just
So
that
it's gonna
they're allowing.
slowly open, it's gonna be done in
We
phases.
can e-file. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
limit on e-filing. The courts are going to allow
Yeah.
that. So I mean, and really, you don't get into the court conferences until you get the issue joined, the party serves the answer, and then you get into the discovery. So our part of the process, I don't think should be held up that much. Just a question of being
Right.
able to do those e-filings. So that, I think we'll be good on that part. As far as staffing, as you know, you were kind enough to give me 2 people. We were actually going to interview the week we shut down. So rather than have the list expired or alternatively hire 2 people and immediately furlough them, that list was sent back and we're going to call the list again.
Well, we
For the
are
2.
doing, we have done interviews via Zoom,
I know.
so we can.
I know we have an additional issue with space because we need a little more room. Our current code enforcement folks are pretty much on top of one another. And if we added 2 more, we would have had a real issue with the space they're in now. So,
Especially under these circumstances.
yeah.
We
So,
have the,
so that's something
we
that
have
we,
the trailer going in up at, a Gasson trailer going in up at the ambulance
Right.
headquarters.
Right.
So as soon as that happens, it was being
we
furbished.
can move
and-
across the hall.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a plan
I
that,
like to call it a mobile unit.
that's a
Mobile
plan that
unit.
Councilman Hubbard has worked on to lead the charge as far as getting the Justice Court up and running, getting the ambulance moved out of here so that we can put code enforcement in both places so they have
Right.
more room to function, which
Right.
is definitely needed.
Yes, so that'll allow us to do that additional hiring and go from there. And as you point out, the number of filings at Riverhead Justice Court went up last year, and I think it's gonna be on target, even though we've been shut down for a while, to be close this year.
And it's a revenue generating department and it's a quality of life issue. So those are the types of jobs, in my opinion, that we should be looking at filling, because we did have people that had retired or had passed. So I think those are the jobs that we really need to look at filling, or the revenue generating ones. So,
Okay.
thank you.
On the other issue that came up today, I heard it for the first time, the idea of waiving fines or penalties. Is that
Just-
gonna be
just
for
the- just the
tickets?
pe-
Is that gonna be tickets or all across the
Okay,
board?
it's gonna be, not VTL violations, because the state gets a good
Well, we
portion
don't,
of
we don't
that.
prosecute the VTLs. That's the district
Okay.
attorney's office.
Right, so it's gonna, be directed to penalties for town codes such as parking, where we
Okay.
receive 100% of the funds from the, violation.
Okay, and that's being investigated. I know most of our parking tickets, we have a third-party entity that goes out and collects on those. So I don't think we got those old parking tickets kicking around anymore, because they've
I thought we
been,
were at 80%.
they were very
last time.
vigorous in going out and getting those.
I thought we were at 80% of collecting most of those those outstanding parking tickets
Well,
anyway.
the reason I asked the question is, do you want me to reach out to our third-party entity to
Yeah,
find out how many we
don't have
have?
to send them forward, we're the ones that send the summonses forward. We can say,
Correct.
we're not sending them forward, and we're gonna, from this point on, and start collecting if they, acquire, penalties,
Yeah,
fines.
I'm just trying to understand a little bit the, you know, how it's gonna work, you know,
I'd like
cause,
a little more time to think about that as to.
because I'd like to do a
Yeah.
little more research
implement
so
it.
I can properly bring it to the board if there's a question on this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's just the town code violations
Okay.
that may be older than 5 years that
Vehicle.
Alright.
we haven't collected on.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to get some clarification on that. All right. Any other questions on code enforcement?
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you.
Moving on.
All right.
Okay, anybody else? I think we have everyone.
We're done with the
All right.
commission items.
Okay. All right, moving forward, can I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the following? The discussion on,
Jefferson. I'm sorry.
on the acquisition of real property, Prudenti and Kent. Can I get a first and a second?
Yes.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.